Yeah.
Good morning. Let's start the session. The prayer with the Bahasa Malaysia is then removing difficulties. So let's pray. Adakah penghalang kesukaran selain Tuhan? Katakanlah terpujilah ya Tuhan, semua hamba-Nya dan semua tunduk pada perintah-Nya. Adakah penghalang kesukaran selain Tuhan? Katakanlah terpujilah ya Tuhan, semua hamba-Nya dan semua tunduk pada perintah-Nya.
O my kind Lord, O thou the desire of my heart and soul, bestow upon thy friends thy loving kindness, and grant them the unfailing mercy. Be thou a solace to the ardent lovers, and a friend, a comforter, and a loving companion to them who yearn for thee. Their hearts are blazed with the fire of thy love, and their souls are consumed with the flame of devotion to thee. They long, one and all, to hasten unto the altar of love, that they may willingly lay down their lives. O divine providence, grant them thy favor, guide them aright, graciously aid them to achieve spiritual victory, and confer upon them heavenly bestowals. O Lord, assist them by thy beneficence and grace, and make their radiant faces lamps of guidance in assemblies devoted to the knowledge of thee, and signs of heavenly bounty in gatherings where thy verses are expounded. Thou art verily the merciful, the all-bountiful, the one whose help is implored by all men. Abdul Baha.
Thank you very much, Mr. Liu and Mr. Perimal, our friends, our very faithful friends, whom have been waiting for us to start these Thursday night sessions. I wanted to welcome each and every one of you that you remembered these firesides and joined us tonight, although we have only started to do the advertisement or whatever about a week ago and or a little longer. We are very excited to be back, and really Thursday nights We're like a whole without friends. I also wanted to welcome Lauraline. Lauraline, thank you so much for joining us. You know that that we love you when you join us. Very welcome. Um, Tonight, we wanted to start big and beautiful. So that's why we called Masood or sent him a message, and he actually accepted it. Uh, I thought he would tell me probably in November, but he was kind enough to accept it for the first session. So I am elated, I am happy, and I can't tell you how grateful I am to Masood. I can read Masood's bio for you. It is a very he wanted me to actually summarize it. So I do summarize it. But you've met him before. Tonight he will speak about In the Shadow of Divine, Cultivating Creativity as a Portal for the Spirit. Masud Olufani is an Atlanta-based multidisciplinary artist, curator, and educator. He has taught at several universities, including Emory University, Georgia State University, and the United States Federal Prison in Atlanta, Georgia. Masood Olufani has exhibited his art gallery in many different places, and he has had many accolades. I won't go through all of them. He is also co-hosted PBS shows, and I mean, you have read that in our introduction, and he's also an accomplished actor with a recurring role on the Bet series, the quad and the featured part in the biopic All Eyez on Me. It is much longer than that, but I will leave it at that. Masood John, hello, how are you? Thank you for accepting, Masood. Thank you.
It's good to see you. Good to
Good
see
to see
everybody.
you.
Really good to
Lovely.
see you. I am
Thank you.
really, really honored and happy to be here. It's difficult for me to say no to you, Farouz. You're kind of like my Persian mom. So when you call, I try to answer. And I know if I don't, I'm gonna hear from you several times until I do. So I better just answer quickly. Don't have to endure that constant you being on me about not answering promptly. So I'm always happy to be here. Happy to be with everybody. I am, as Farouz said, I am an Atlanta-based artist. I'm not in Atlanta at the moment. I am in New Haven, Connecticut, where I'm doing a fellowship at NXTHVN, which is really an extraordinary fellowship program that was started by the internationally known artist Titus Kaphar. And Titus Kaphar is this extraordinary person who is from the Midwest and then also the West Coast, young African-American artist. He's probably in his mid-40s. And somebody who literally, he will tell you that art saved his life, was leading a very troubled life as a young person. Got involved in the arts, asked a young woman at the time out for a date. And she said, you've got to have some goals first. And so he went and enrolled in community college and took an art history course, and then learned that he really loved art, and wound up from the community college, went to San Diego State out west, and then eventually wound up at Yale University's graduate painting program, and has done quite well for himself. And he had a vision to start a program that would serve an international cohort of artists, bring them together to create and to live in similar spaces. But then not only just provide space and time and funds and resources for artists to create, but also to pair the artist with young people from the inner city community and to serve as a mentor to those young people for the 10 months that we're here. So there's a community-based element to this program that's quite extraordinary. I've done a number of residencies in different places around the world. And I must tell you, this is quite an unusual model that you have as part of the residency fulfillment, the fellowship fulfillment, is that you have to mentor a young person from the inner city school system. And it's just wonderful, really, really extraordinary. So I'm happy to be here amongst my cohort, which is a brilliant cohort of people from various parts of the world and the United States. We have someone from Nigeria, we have people from out west, we have people from the deep south and from the Northeast. But then also, in addition to having all these incredibly brilliant creatives around me, I also get to learn about my studio assistant, Mint T, who is this extraordinary young person who's in the senior year of high school. And I get to have an impact on that person's life going forward. So that's the opportunity. And this is a really good way to enter into this conversation. I think it's going to be more of a conversation today. I will share some images, but because it's an example of how art can serve for the advancement of the human family, how we can use creativity and artistry actually not just to serve ourselves, but how it can also have impact on the community directly. I think that's a really good place to kind of get started and kind of set the tone. The title of this talk, Farouz, I sent Farouz an image. She's like, Masud, I need a title for the talk. So I said, okay, so let me come up with something. So I came up with this whole notion of creativity and, it being kind of like a portal for the soul. Now, in the Baha'i writings, we have all of these, fortunately, the central figures of the faith have left us some real gems when it comes to the arts, and how the central figures of the faith regard the arts, right? How they are looked upon. We know the famous quote that art is a ladder for the soul. I think the specific quote is music is a ladder for the soul. But in the Baha'i community, we have sometimes said art. So, music is an art form. It's essentially the same thing. And what does that mean? Like from a metaphorical sense, it means that that musical creation, that the creativity, the creative power of music, that it has ability to lift us from one plane of existence to the next, to actually enlarge us, to give us a broader vision of the world and of the universe and of our relationship to the creator. So in some sense, in a profound way, the central figures of the faith in the context of this, and I think this was Abdul Baha who said this, what the master is saying is essentially that art is impregnated with this capacity, with this ability. It's not just about creating something physical. It's not just about singing songs. It's not just about putting notes together, but there is some latent potential within the creative spark that has the capacity to expand our spirits and our souls. Now, that's a profound idea, and it also presents us with quite a conundrum in one sense, right? It's inspiring, it's profound, but then it also makes me think about the great responsibility of being a creative person and how engaging in creativity, what is the kind of spiritual obligation and burden that one has to carry when one is creating and presenting their art to the world, right? As a professional artist, that's what I do. I'm engaged in creating objects and putting them into the world, sending them forth, and hopefully praying that they have some positive impact to help people to see the world or their connection to humanity, their understanding of the diversity of the human family in a new light, helps to broaden and deepen their spiritual relationship to themselves and to the divine. So that's kind of, my calling. It's kind of the mandate that I operate from when I'm working, when I'm creating. And, and we have other quotes about the arts, not just art as a ladder for the soul. Abdul Baha, the Guardian, Baha'u'llah, they talk about the spiritual capacity of the arts, how they have this ability to, how they come as gifts from the Holy Spirit, right? They come from God. And how because of that, they have this ability to really touch us in a very deep and meaningful way. And actually that they're key components to the forward advancement of civilization. So, thinking about those things and it really helps to frame my engagement with the arts and how I approach creativity. I do want to say something before we really get deep into this. And I want to say that art or creativity is not an exclusive practice, okay? You could be a person who maybe their life's work is in business, or is in, I don't know, astrophysics, or someone who is engaged in, some form of medical science, right? Creativity is something that can be applied to any discipline that you practice, right? It is a kind of spirit that we bring to the work that we do, a kind of expansive, experimental, creative mindset, an opening of the soul to inspiration, right? To spontaneity, to improvisation that allows us to enter the arena of creativity and use that process as a way of tapping into whatever discipline that we're engaged in and giving it the dynamic force of the creator, right? So I just want to say that because a lot of times people have the idea that, well, I'm not an artist. Because I'm in business, or I'm not an artist because I don't know, I teach economics on the graduate school level, or I'm not an artist because I don't know, I study rocks, but it doesn't really matter, right? It's the spiritual energy, the creativity, the openness to the wonder of the world and of the universe that we bring to our disciplines that make us creative beings, that make us engaged in the creative process. So I just want to say that. Now, I will say that being a professional artist is a very particular kind of creative engagement, right? It's spending a incalculable number of hours doing a particular thing, whether that be a sculptor, which is what I do, a mixed media artist or a painter, or a person who writes, a person who acts and performs, a person who composes music, all of these things, right? Someone who has chosen to do that as their life's work and as their central vocation, that's a different level of commitment, right? The Baha'i writings, fortunately for us, give us a lot of indication of how we are to regard creatives, people who practice artistry as a profession. And Baha'u'llah has talked in a number of ways about, in a number of instances, about the regard that we're supposed to hold people who are engaged in creativity, in the arts, in trades and professions, right? So there's a certain level of respect that we want to pay to people. And I'm not just saying this is not about Masud. I'm saying generally for all of us that we want to pay to people who are engaged in these professions, which have such spiritual capacity to transform human beings, to transform our society, right? So I just want to be clear with that, because I think that there's we need to understand that the creative spirit is something that all of us have access to, but the practice of artistry as a profession is something that's very specific, okay? I came to art as a very young child. I was about 4 years old, I think, when I first started drawing. And I was a fairly kind of inward drawn child. I had friends, but never a lot of friends. And for some reason, I seemed to enjoy sitting down with a piece of paper and a pencil and creating worlds. I don't know why I was wired that way. I have no idea what God was thinking, when He created me, why in particular He made it so that for some reason I'm drawn to those quiet moments of introspection where I can just be with a work of art that I'm creating, and I can enter this world and I can be completely satisfied with that process, right? And also, incidentally, why for me I'm more drawn to kind of small group conversations and one-on-one conversations as opposed to being in large groups. Artists, quite oftentimes, artists particularly who work individually, whether you're a writer, whether you're a composer, whether you're a visual artist, generally these people spend awful lot of time by themselves. So what happens is a lot of times you have to become very comfortable with being alone. And then you also realize that quite oftentimes it's not large groups that give you energy. It's actually more intimate conversations, one-on-one conversations, small group conversations that rejuvenate and feed your soul. I used to think that something was wrong with me because I would have this kind of tension within me. I would be in these large group settings and I would feel like, why am I like not having as much fun as everybody else seems to be having? Why is that the one thing that I want to do is run away, go back to my room and just sit and draw? Or, why do I want to just walk through the woods and have an experience in nature, right? What is going on with me? But I realized that part of that contemplation, thank God, over time, I realized that that contemplation is necessary for creation. And so to contemplate, to think about one's relationship to the world, to the universe, to think about our society, right? To comment creatively on our society and what's going on in the world, to create a vision of what could be, not only what is, but also what could be, requires reflection, requires meditation, requires quite oftentimes a lot of time by oneself or in small groups or one-on-one conversations. Now, it's interesting because we are in a faith that is so firmly grounded in community, right? That is that is a fundamental aspect, right? This teaching of the oneness of humanity. How do we go about that process, right? Community building, right? Which is what the Baha'i world community is presently engaged with on a massive scale around the world, right? Changing, transforming our neighborhoods through these interactions of devotional gatherings, these interactions of having people over to our home, checking on our neighbors, right? Doing these simple things, studying the holy writings together, not with an eye towards converting anybody, but just to create spiritual spaces that community can gather and be together, right? So, we're engaged in these processes of community building. There can seem to be some contradiction, right? Sometimes when creators want to be off by themselves. And I myself have sometimes felt that contradiction, right? I have been in places where, I've talked to people in my community, man, you guys are doing so much community engagement stuff. And, my schedule is so crazy. I can't commit to doing something every week in my living home because I don't know if I'm going to be there that week, right? Or I have to leave. I need to get away. I have to go for a walk, right? Or I need time in the studio, right? So there's a tension that one can feel if we don't think deeply about what is our calling, what is the commitment we have, right, to actualizing our calling. What is the unsaid agreement, the spiritual agreement that one has made between oneself and the Creator, right? And that's about a kind of internal investigation that one has to make individually, where we have to sit with the self and spend time with the self and say, okay, I have a set of skills that God has given me, right? They could be skills that are about being in large groups, in community, in large ways. That's wonderful. We need people who are doing great works in organizing and bringing people together, who get fed from large crowds and large groups. We need those people. They do wonderful work. But then we also need people who take the time to reflect, to think, who are creative, who are producing works of art, who recognize that time to create is essential to their practice and that their calling, and when I say a calling, I'm not just talking about a tendency or something that is something that just is a spur of the moment inspiration. I'm not talking about something that feels like it's a hobby. I'm talking about something that you feel deep in your soul, at the very marrow of your bones, that you have been placed on this earth to do, and that you're willing to accept all of the things that come with that, the joys, the ups, the downs, the struggles, the exaltation, the degradation, everything that comes with it. Because that calling, being fully invested in that calling does something to your spirit. In some sense, you feel closer to the greater spirit, right? It's your way of connecting to the greater spirit. Yes. So I'm saying that to say that, there are always these tensions, right? And we have to wrestle with the self, interrogate the self, right? And I had to come to the point for me where I recognized that when I took the time, when I was consciously taking the time to step away from some of these large gatherings, right? To spend time with the work, to be in the studio, to be writing, right? To be working on a script, whatever it is, that was my way of worshiping God. And it is as legitimate as being in a 5,000 seat auditorium, standing room only, where everybody is singing a song to God, praising God. It is as legitimate as that, right? So, I say all that to say, I think sometimes we can put pressure on ourselves, we can put pressure on each other, right? Because our way of expressing ourselves, our way of getting in touch with God, right, may look somewhat different than someone else's, right? But that may be as essentially necessary for them to feel themselves growing closer to their Creator. And art is nothing if it is not about expansive thinking, creativity, improvisation, right? Allowing for that sense of creativity, that sense of improvisation, that flow of creative energy to live and breathe, giving it space to live and breathe, creating spaces where people can allow that to breathe, right? So anyway, so for me, it's constant as a person who practices art as a profession. There's this constant oscillation between the collective and the individual, between doing things in a collective space and then taking time that I need to restore, to contemplate, to consider the work, and to do the physical, demanding mental and spiritual labor required to produce the art that I produce. Okay? Some of you might know the great poet Robert Hayden, who is the first poet laureate of the United States. Although at the time that he was appointed poet laureate, the title did not exist, but all of the duties that he performed were essentially the same as the US poet laureate today, right? Now, just to show you an example of this struggle and this tension, Robert Hayden was somebody obviously who had great capacity. If you've ever read some of his poetry, things like The Middle Passage, his poem on Malcolm X, my favorite poem is the one that he wrote about his father, Those Winter Sundays, where he talked about his father going to work a menial job day in and day out, and how he as a son didn't realize the sacrifice that his father was making, and how later in life he had come to realize the burden he was carrying and the sadness he felt for not having recognized it sooner, right? Robert Hayden, all of this great capacity, there were people constantly saying, we need you to serve on this committee, we need you to do this, we need you to do that. And Robert came to understand that his calling was to be a writer and a poet. And he said, I am choosing to spend time with the work because that's what God has placed within me to do. Now, for all of the kind of, internal kind of like ways that we can beat ourselves up because we may feel that, and each other up because we may feel that we are not embodying, right, what it is to be, to practice a quote unquote, a Baha'i life in the sense of doing all of the things, right? Going to all of the committee meetings. And listen, I just want to also say this. I am not diminishing the blessed work of people who serve on committees, who serve on institutions. That work is critical to the forward progress of humanity. It is absolutely crucial. We need it. So I want to be clear about that. I just know that for me, that's not my work. There was another person, Kevin Locke. Some of you may know of Kevin Locke, who is this incredible Lakota hoop dancer, incredible person, artist, and just a beautiful soul. I had the privilege of meeting Kevin many years ago when he came to Atlanta to do a performance. And had spent a little bit of time around Kevin, listening mostly because he had so many stories to share. And he was such a beautiful, beautiful soul. But Kevin had gotten appointed to this really important position in the faith from an administrative standpoint. And he realized quite quickly that he really didn't have a gift for administrative work. And he said that this is not my work. My work is to be out there teaching, spreading the teachings of Baha'u'llah, teaching using the spiritual and artistic legacy of the Native American community, in particularly the Lakota Native American community, to spread the teachings of Baha'u'llah. And thank God he did that work, right? He touched so many lives. We can think of other remarkable people who have come through the Baha'i faith. We can think of people like Dizzy Gillespie, okay? Dizzy, one of the giants of the jazz age, right? incredible person who traveled and did so much in terms of using his music to bring humanity closer together, right? Dizzy, who, he had this really beautiful relationship with the Harlem Prep School, which was started by a well-known Baha'i and also an educator from Harlem, New York. And Dizzy used to always come and do fundraisers. And this Baha'i, who is involved in the process of founding this school, said that one day he called Dizzy's house and his wife answered the phone. And she said, "Look, I'm tired of you calling my husband all the time because every time you ask him to come down and do a fundraiser, I know he ain't gonna get paid." So he was a person who used his artistry to serve the cause, but he was also he had a really strong commitment to his practice of being an artist, being a creative person. So, those things are really, really important. And I could go on. There are so many other numerous examples of great artists who have come through the faith, who have chosen, have decided within themselves after this serious interrogation that their gift to the world was through their craft, through their discipline, and that was their primary engagement. And actually the work then becomes service. It transcends just kind of like an exercise or a kind of personally gratifying process, although that it does do that as well. But it enters the arena, it expands. It becomes about the betterment of the human family, and then it becomes about service. And that's profound. That's very, very profound. I wanted to share something with you. Recently, I was we're talking about how the arts have this capacity to effect change and to touch us in a very deep way, and how practically our practices as artists, as creative people, can have a direct impact on the society that we are engaged with. I wanted to give you an example of that. May I share my screen, Farouz? Would that be okay?
Absolutely. Let me make you co-host just a second, please.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Masud John, confirm.
Okay, let me see. I didn't get a note that I was the host. Usually I get a note. Oh, wait a minute. No, that says that this meeting is being recorded. I see that. I don't see anything that says I am a host now.
Yeah. Make Masud a co-host. You should confirm.
Okay. Usually I get a message.
Why don't you share a screen? I'm sure we can do it.
Okay. All right. Let's try. I don't know if does anybody see that? Oh, hold on. Does anybody see this?
We see you.
Yeah. See. Yeah. So.
But we did, there was a message that came up on my screen that said you are a co-host. Just as Farouz was doing it.
Yeah. I just don't see. Normally there's something that says I can share my screen. Oh, here it is. I see it. I got it. Never mind. We got it. Okay. We're good. We're good. Let's go here.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you for protecting, having my back all the time.
We got through it. We got through it. Okay, so let's see here. Let me pull this up. Okay. Can everybody see the slide?
Yes.
Okay. So what you're looking at, this is the interior view of a recent exhibition at Emory University, which I had the really distinct privilege of curating. Let me be a bit more clarifying. So just to be clear, I've never trained as a curator. I had no desire to curate anything. When they asked me if I would be interested in doing this project, they asked me if I had any curatorial experience. I said, yes, I curate my living room, my bedroom, my bathroom all the time. They said, that's not quite what we have in mind, Masud. So they wanted me to curate an exhibition at Emory University's Michael Carlos Museum. And the exhibition had a very interesting premise. There were to be 5 curators in the exhibition, 5. I was to be the lead curator or the governing curator. That means that all the other curators, report to is really not the word I would use. I had responsibility for helping them to facilitate them doing their best work. They chose 5 objects from various cultures around the world, and each curator had stewardship over each of those objects. So, for example, we had an object from Mexico. We had an object from Syria. We had an object from Greece. We had an object from India. And we had an object from Egypt and one from West Africa. And the challenge was, the Baha'i faith, we talk about, unity is predicated on diversity. It's a very different concept than this idea of oneness, which is about a flattening of the human family, right? It's not about respecting diversity, seeing diversity. It really is about this idea that some way you can flatten the uniqueness of culture and create a universal person who doesn't really have any cultural specificity at all. And really, the Baha'i faith is quite different in that, right? The job that we have to do is a bit more difficult, right? It's about acknowledging, respecting, noticing the beauty of, appreciating the beauty, seeing the beauty, cultivating ability within myself to see the beauty in other people, and then creating a world that respects, and honors diversity and recognizes, comes to fully understand and embrace at the very core of our being, right? That somehow the functioning of the human family, its healthy functioning, is predicated on a respect, a reverence, and an acknowledgement of our diversity, right? Now, diversity is an interesting thing, right? Because we have what we call different, how should I say? There are different identities that exist within the individual, okay? I'm a man of African descent, very proud of my African heritage, my African American heritage, proud of the journey of people of African descent. That is a secondary identity. Farouz, she's a beautiful Persian woman, with all these incredible gifts, right, who brings people together, right? I've heard that she's a tremendous cook. I'm waiting for her to invite me up to Canada for a meal. Still waiting on that, Farouz. But that's a secondary identity, right? All of those beautiful qualities that make up who she is. Now, the primary identity, according to the Baha'i faith, is spiritual, right? That there is something essential, a heartbeat that moves through every member of the human family, right? That links us all. It's almost like the string of a lute, as the great poet and philosopher Khalil Gibran would say, right? He talked about the heart as being like the strings on a lute, right? They're separate, but they quiver with the same music, yes, right? So that spiritual identity is what unites us all. It's what allows me to call Farouz's mother. It's what allows me to look at the screen of these beautiful faces and see family members. It's because I know that the DNA, that spiritual DNA that supersedes the physical DNA, right, is that spiritual oneness and unity that connects us to God and to the Creator. Yes? So, getting back to this exhibition, it was really profound because we had to come up with a way, and we had to do this collectively through consultation. Another one of those really powerful teachings in the Baha'i faith about how we come to agreement is through consultation, right, and working through issues. So I had to consult with a diverse body of curators and come up with a way to create an exhibition, right, that maintained the individual curatorial and creative spirit and eye of each curator, also maintained the individual creative genius of the culture that the object came from, but then also spoke about a collective whole. That's a very difficult thing to do. I don't know if any of you have ever done anything like that in another facet of your life. I'm sure you have. Some of you have. But it's a very challenging thing to do. So we came up with this idea for this exhibition called Call and Response. Call and response, I'm sure many of you might be familiar, is a phrase that comes from the African American musical tradition, right? And it's a practice that is about community building. And every culture around the world practices a variation of call and response. Essentially what you do is you sing something or you say something, and somebody will, within the context of the Black community, somebody will say, you know, in the Black church, amen. Teach, brother, teach, sister. Go on. Yes, 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 I hear you. Yes, call and response. You put a call, you say something, and then the audience responds, right? So there is this oscillating energy between those who are present and the lead protagonists in that relationship. The lead protagonist puts out the call, the participants respond in this oscillating energy of creativity and spontaneity, right? So we use that term call and response to speak about how these objects, right, how cultures call through time and place, and how we generations later respond to that call, right? How we hopefully are engaged in the process of making the world a better place, responding to the lessons learned from our forebears, from our ancestors, right? And creating a more cohesive and unified society gradually, right? Struggling to do that intentional work, that hard, challenging, but incredibly rewarding and intentional work, right? So this call and response in the sense of a communal musical practice, yes, but also being something larger than that. It expands. There's a broader impact in that. It reaches across time and place, across generations, right? Calling through time, through the ancestors, through different geographies around the world, through different cultures, and we respond to those calls. So that was the idea of the exhibition, call and response. And each curator got a room where they created a curation experience around that object, one that respected the cultural context. And then you had to transition from room to room. So you were moving from one part of the world into the other. And how does one create an experience that makes those transitions seem beautiful and seamless and not disjointed and conflicted, right? That was the challenge. Another view, this is as you enter the exhibition space. This is what you see. You see the conceptual framework for the exhibition written, the text of why we called it call and response, why we use that title, yes? This is one of the advertisements for the exhibition. Let me see here. I want to go back just a little bit. You see these are some images from the exhibition. This image that you see here, this woman is listening or watching a recording of women who went to Sierra Leone, and they discovered their African heritage, made the Mende from Sierra Leone. And they went to Sierra Leone and reconnected with their ancestral roots, a journey which I was honored to take myself. And so I did a recording, and we created this wall kind of sculptural element to frame and house the videos of them speaking about their experience. This is one of the brilliant curators from the exhibition talking about her contribution to the exhibition, which was a relief from Palmyra, which is modern day Syria now. But she's talking about, the history of this statue and why she made the curatorial decisions that she made. Notice also the colors that are used here. We see, the colors respecting the brilliant colors of West Africa, how, every pattern, every color is used in that culture. You go here with this beautiful kind of sea tone that references the sea, right? And the beauty of the Mediterranean Sea and all of that, which would have been so familiar to this culture. This is another one of our brilliant curators who was responsible for a Jain map. Jainism, as we know, is one of the world's great religions. This was a pilgrimage map, stitched in a rug form. And this was the central element in her part of the exhibition. And again, we see these this almost like this sea foam green, right? Matching the lesser colors in the tapestry itself. So pulling out some of those minor colors to create this kind of brilliant palette exchange between the carpet itself and the wall that it's placed on. That's her talking about the pilgrimage site itself and the map. I don't know who this guy is. I still don't know who that guy is. Okay, so this is just me giving a brief talk about the curatorial experience, of what we were trying to accomplish. The gentleman dressed in black was the brilliant person who captured all of the videos that were associated with the exhibition. This brother right here, who curated the Mexican component of the exhibition, he's from a place in southwestern Mexico on the coast. And for the exhibition, he chose a sculptural element called a Colima dog, which is from the town of Colima in Mexico, where his ancestors are from. And the Colima dogs were guides that led people from the physical world to the spiritual world. And he just did such a brilliant job. I was so proud of the work that he did. And just a beautiful soul. He's a dancer by profession and a professor at Emory University. That's the curatorial team minus one. One person was abroad, but that's us there. Sorry about some of these duplicates, but now this is really quite extraordinary. So you have a gathering here of some of the Syrian women whose interviews were recorded for the exhibition. Now, these women in their interviews, they talked about how extraordinary it was to be reunited with this sculpture that was at the center of their part of the exhibition. And that sculpture of that woman spoke about the dignity of that culture, the beauty of the women in that culture, their dignity, their sense of nobility. And they talked about how overjoyed they were to see it, but also a little sad they were because they had to flee Syria. These women had to leave Syria because of the warfare. And they talked about how they were having this kind of disembodied experience, this conflicted experience, feeling like they were touching one of their sisters, but also feeling in some way disconnected from their homeland as well. And these are just some shots from the gathering, very diverse group of people. This is the director of the Michael C. Carlos Museum, Dr. Kim, wonderful person. He's the one that brought us all together. And him giving some remarks. That's me speaking, obviously. And I want to say what I noticed quite quickly, friends, is that this exhibition, in one sense, it was remarkable in the sense that we were bringing 5 objects together from around the world. That was remarkable. But what was even more profound was the diversity of the community that came out to see the exhibition. And the fact that we were able to use that moment, right, using art as a modality for community building and constructive resilience to talk about the oneness of the human family and the diversity of the human family. And that how when you bring these constituent elements together, you see this unfolding tapestry of beauty and wonder that reflects the creative hand of the Almighty. Some more images from that experience. Clint Fluker, who is a professor at Emory and a brilliant young brother who is served in the capacity of, he was my boss in this process. So he was the curator's curator. He was the curator's curator. So anyway, so I just wanted to show you a few of these so you can see how art, how creativity, artistry can serve as a mechanism for constructive resilience and community building, how it can tear down walls, how it can build bridges between communities. This brother, again, who was our curator for the Mexican part, he blew a conch shell to invoke the spirit of his ancestors, which is a tradition that they practice in his village in Mexico. And that's him uttering a prayer for his ancestors. And then saying that we were to turn in the 4 directions of the earth as he blew each time that we turned on the conch shell to invoke the presence of the ancestors. This sister, this beautiful sister here, who accompanied me, was one of the women who was part of our group when we traveled to Sierra Leone. She's also Mende. And she was one of the women featured in the videos that I had in my particular part of the exhibition, which was all about the Mende mask. And she is providing a welcome to those. She uttered a prayer for the gathering, and she practices Ife, or Ifa, which is a West African religious tradition of the Yoruba people. So she talked about that. She uttered a prayer. She poured libations for the dead in respect to her ancestors, and really was central to creating this spirit of unity and community that evening. Yeah, this is her in the middle of offering her prayers and just touching her heart, talking about the love that she felt in the room, the presence of spirit. Okay. So I think what I'm gonna do, let me see if I can get out of this. There we go, stop. Okay, stop share. Okay, so just to give you a little idea, right, in a very small way, right, but in a very significant way, right, of how an event like that can become a mechanism for creative community building, right? And how it can become a space where people who normally wouldn't associate with each other, brought together, right, through the apparatus of art making, right, the history of art making, you know, through various cultures around the world, can be brought together and feel that spirit of oneness and community. Very, very profound. And I must admit, I was a bit overwhelmed standing there and looking out at the audience and realizing that I thought one thing was happening, right? As I worked to help curate the show, right? There was that, you know, intentional work that had to be done to bring all of these visions together. So I was aware that that was happening. But I also became aware that something else was happening, something more profound, that project created a stage for us to come together and bond in spirit and look around the room and recognize that, hey, we are different, but we are also profoundly the same, right? United in spirit. Individual hues and colors on the palette, right, that reflect our cultural identity, yes? But brought together on a canvas, creating this wondrous painting of diversity and divergent colors that reverberate with a spiritual energy. And feeling that in the room that evening was a profound experience. So I will share just a couple of more things, and then I would like to open it up for conversation, because for me, that's why, I mean, you know, I love saying yes to Firuz, and I don't mind coming on and talking a little bit, but it really is the conversation that really rejuvenates my soul. So what I want to do is I will share a little bit about my own personal studio practice, and show you a little bit about some of the things that compel me as I am. Let me see here. Here we go. Everyone can see this, I think, correct? Firuz, nod yes if you can. Good, very good. So this is my personal website. And I'm not going to run you through a lot of this, but we'll just go through a few images. Some things, coincidentally, that have direct relevance to the exhibition that I just showed you. So this piece is called Wominde Series. If you notice, there are 24 elements in this piece, 24 individual elements, right? These pieces, they are composed of two elements in the work. On the surface, you see these things that look like masks. These are Mende masks from the people of Sierra Leone. This is one of the most widely collected African masks from around the world. If you go to any major museum in the world, they usually have in their possession a Mende mask. Now, we're in a very interesting time because these museums who have a history of pillaging and plundering cultures, right? They acquired some of this material deceptively and also violently in some cases. And so now what they're doing, many of these museums are returning these objects back to the cultures where they were taken from, where they were pillaged from. So the Mende mask is one of those that is, been widely distributed, and in some ways they've been acquired legitimately, but in some other ways they were acquired with some very deceptive and quite brutal tactics that reflected colonialism of the times. So you see, you have this Mende mask here, right? Underneath, this is screen printed on plexiglass. So the glass that actually covers the image beneath it has the image of the Mende mask printed on it. Now, I'm just going to give you a very quick art lesson. You notice that you can see through the mask and you can see the image beneath it. Now, that's a drawing. That's a hand drawing that I did of the women, some of the women that went with me to Sierra Leone. And so this is important because when you put a transparency in an ink, it allows it to become opaque. And that's what allows you to see through the ink and see the image beneath it. Now, another thing about this, which is quite profound, the Mende people in Sierra Leone have one of the most progressive, historically most progressive societies when it comes to the equal rights of women and men in all of Africa. The Mende mask is exclusively worn by women in Mende society. It can only be worn by women. Not only that, it can only be touched by women. And they have to go through an initiation process from a girl into an adulthood. And they're taught all of the things they will need to know to grow into womanhood. And then they are allowed to touch and also to wear the mask in ritual dance. Some of you might know a woman named Joy DeGruy, who happens to be a well-known Baha'i in our community, who does a lot of talks about the issue of race and oneness. She's brilliant. This is an image of Joy DeGruy that I drew here beneath this blue mask, right? Joy is a friend of mine and a mentor, and she also happens to have ties to the Mende community as well. Okay, let's move a little forward. I'm just gonna do a few more of these. Influenced by my travels in West Africa, I grew up, my mother was really central to my formulation as a child. I was raised primarily in a single parent household in New York City. Being raised around women had a profound impact on my sense of justice when it came to looking at the tension that exists between the work historically that was considered to be manly work and the work that historically was considered to be womanly work. Historically, the work that was considered to be manly work was considered to be more important than the womanly work. This piece, in many ways, is an homage to the divinity in the work that women do to sustain community. This is a very simple form of a mortar and pestle. It is a way of making grain for the community. If you notice on this piece, there are these small boxes. These boxes have motors in them. So what happens is these go up and down when the switch is turned on. And it imitates the movement of women pounding the grain to create food for the community. Something that is quite oftentimes viewed as being unimportant, mundane, particularly in Western society. Women, if they're cooking, if they happen to be cooking in the kitchen, oh, that's, she's doing that womanly thing. That's what she's supposed to do. But the reality is the community doesn't survive if they don't do this work. So it's a bit more important than that. I thought I had a video for this, but I don't know, we can get to do that some other time. I'm just gonna do a few more slides, 2 or 3 more, and then we're done. Tapping the root, I noticed when I was in West Africa, I happened to see a number of men climbing trees and drilling holes in the side of the trees and putting bottles in the trees. What they were doing to collect the sap or the palm oil that drained from the inner core of the tree. And from that, they ferment that to create a drink that is consumed all up and down West Africa. And it's called a palm wine. I tasted the unfermented stuff and it was quite good. The fermented, from what I understand, is quite strong. I stayed away from that. So anyway, the last thing I think I'll show you is, let's do this piece right quick. So many of you, I'm going to end on this piece. Some of you might know a singer who was called Nina Simone. Nina Simone, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the greatest voices of the 20th century. It's not because of the quality of her voice necessarily. She wasn't a particularly astute, she wasn't a trained singer in the sense of pronouncing all of the nuances of the notes she was singing. But what she had was heart and power and spiritual energy. And also her singing, her recordings, her compositions also commented on the issue of race relations in the United States. She had a song that was called "I Wish I Knew What It Was to Be Free." And I was very inspired by this song because when this song came out, she was basically saying, I knew what it was to be free as a Black woman in America, or as a Black person in America. So I wanted to create a piece called A Wishbone for Nina Simone. And so I hand carved this wishbone. Obviously it's Black. Wishbones aren't Black. They come out of the chicken or the turkey white, right? But I wanted to create one Black to speak about the legacy of Nina Simone. And you see the word Nina stenciled between the legs of the wishbone. This wishbone is quite large. It's about 40 inches tall and probably about 26 or 28 inches wide at the base. So that was my way of paying homage to this brilliant artist who left such a powerful legacy for us to consider and think about. Okay, I'm going to shut up. I feel like I've been talking a long time, and give us an opportunity to have some conversation. So if anybody has any, well, I'll let Farouz manage this. I've said enough, so I'll let you go ahead and manage this, Farouz. You do this very well, so I'm going to shut up.
Thank you so much, Masujan. Every time you come here, you're a different person. You have a different outlook. You have, it's very interesting, multifaceted human being, yet very, very spiritual. Thank you so much. Friends, go ahead and feel free to ask your questions. If you want to raise your hand, if you want all of us to talk together, Masood can find out what's happening. So please go ahead.
It's an easy group tonight. This is great. I love it.
I guess so. I wanted to welcome Roya and Gary. Gary, I know you said you can't talk, but Roya, you can talk. So, Masood, you have something from Roya Bowman if you want to have a look at it. And so,
That's so sweet. Thank you, Roya. That's beautiful. Thank you.
yes.
Well, I wanted to ask Masud a question. I wanted to know that how an artist can do the arts to bring the community together and build up, some united community rather than divided community.
Well, that's a very, I feel like that question is above my pay grade, but I can talk about it, I can talk about it from my own experience. I think intent is so important. I think a meaningful, courageous, and honest internal critique is so critical. Because that intention and that critique, that internal critique, allows us to create a vision for ourselves of what it is that we want to do. And I think as a visual artist, and an artist who does a few things, I'm constantly, I begin the day, I'm usually up at like 4 or 5 in the morning. I don't know why. I don't know why. It's a very special time for me. I love to
You
see the
are
sun.
like me.
Yes, I love it. I love it. And I have a whole ritual that I go through. I burn candles. I burn incense. I'm listening to some soft music, and I spend some time just in quiet reflection. And that time is really to center myself and to create a vision for the day going ahead. Begin saying thank you for all the things I'm grateful for. And these things they're not big things. My first thank you is for breath, for life.
Mm-hmm.
My third one is for a warm bed to sleep in, for a roof over my head,
Mm-hmm.
for clothes on my back, for food on my table. You know, things that, if you haven't been hungry, perhaps, if you haven't had a roof over your head, you might take for granted if that's never been your experience. You know, so that helps me to center myself, and then I think about qualities and virtues of intentionality that I enter the day with: courage, honesty, willing to fail, risk taking, in terms of my spiritual practice, in terms of my artistic practice. All of these things, that I'm thinking about, these virtues and these qualities, and that helps me settle, because I know that if I'm entering the world with that, in that headspace, in that spiritual space, that it doesn't matter what I do artistically, it'll be generated from a grounded place of spirit and of God. And ultimately, it'll be a net benefit for the human family. I have to tell you, friends, I gotta be honest, this is a really interesting story I'm gonna share. I was at a gathering once, and there was this amazing gathering. This was a Baha'i gathering, amazing gathering. There happened to be some artists there. There was one artist who said that he had made a decision for the rest of his life that the only thing he was going to paint were directly Baha'i related art themes. And instinctively, everybody started clapping. I did not. The reason I didn't is because I felt so sad for him, because essentially what he'd done, he had condensed the world to a very small arena of subjects that he could pull from. The only thing he was going to paint were things that were directly related to the Baha'i faith. And my view is that if you were cultivating a spiritual life, spiritual reality, if as a Baha'i we're working in our own, intentional but imperfectly perfect ways of trying to walk this very difficult path, it doesn't matter what you create. If it is a part of you, it'll be infused with spirit if we have been doing that work. And so for me, I had a young Baha'i artist ask me one time, I was in a conversation with Rainn Wilson, and we were talking. It was a group of young people. And this young person said, well, what do you wish for us? And we said, freedom. Freedom. Not to be hemmed in or hamstrung because somebody says, this is what you should be creating. This is what you should be making. You're being a bad Baha'i because you're considering these topics and these subjects. I'm less concerned with that. I'm more concerned with what is the spirit, what is the internal life you are trying to cultivate. And that will manifest itself in the world. I don't have to worry about what's coming out if I'm doing my part. That doesn't mean to say that there won't be mistakes made, but that's part of the process. But the mistakes won't be blunders that coalesce around a kind of carelessness, right? And a kind of indifference. They may be mistakes that, where you just don't have the wisdom at that particular moment, or you did a piece that, you created something that it didn't quite talk about something in the way that you wanted it to, right? But what you put in the world will be a reflection of one's internal reality. So freedom. I wish freedom for me. I wish freedom for all of the creatives who are out there. And I wish an intentional, honest and courageous internal critique daily to set the intention for the rest of the day.
Masood, what about that you read a quote, okay? I'm
Mhm.
artist myself.
Yes.
So when I read a quote that it really goes to my heart, I wanted to create something with my painting. And of course, I don't want to limit that
Yeah.
quote to my painting, but
Yeah.
I was moved by that painting, by
Yeah.
that quote to do
Yeah.
that painting. And that's what it, it really makes me to make art. And
Yeah.
because when I'm reading this quote and this writing, my soul moves. And,
Yeah.
and through that, I wanted to bring something out of me and put him on a paper and bring that quote kind of in my own way
Yeah.
to life, kind of, you understand, you are an artist yourself, you
Mm-hmm.
understand where I am coming from. And
Mm-hmm.
and that's what, I
Okay.
I wanted to especially.
sorry. Hold on 1 second.
Go ahead. I think they just forgot they weren't muted.
Okay, okay, and I wanted to be sure that I'm not going to limit that quote
Yeah.
to what I paint, but
Yeah.
that's my feeling and my soul uh, telling me to do this art now for this quote. So that's what I wanted to
Yeah. Yeah. I think
rectify.
that's great. I think that's great. Inspiration comes from so many different places.
Mm-hmm,
My thing is just to keep an open antenna and allow
mm-hmm,
the inspiration to flow from wherever you get it. It can come from a quote that's fabulous. It can come from a blade of grass.
mm-hmm,
It can come from a conversation you had with somebody. It
mm-hmm.
can come
Or
from,
sometimes from my dream,
yeah,
I
all of
have
it.
a dream and then I put it on that on painting. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. I don't want to take more time.
No, it's
So
okay. I appreciate the question. Thank
other
you.
people would be able to ask questions. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you very much.
Masood, David writes most marvelous presentation. I am blown away by Masood's profoundly meaningful and purposeful creative process and how he grounds it in Baha'u'llah's stupendous call for the oneness of humanity through recognition of its somebody is not. Please, can we mute ourselves? So through recognition of its multifarious diversity. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Masujan, I have a question. David,
Sure.
thank you very much. I wish I could write English like you, David. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Maybe in my next life I can do that. You never know. Um, I have a question for you if you want to respond to anything, or maybe should I ask my question?
It's your ship, Farouz. I think you can do what you want, so go for it.
It's our ship. Mr. Perimal, thank you for coming. I know you have to leave. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Much love. Thank you. Thank you. Um, this might come across a little weird,
Mhm.
but Masujan, is there a connection between suffering and creativity?
Mm. Oh, wow, that's a great question. Uh, mm, huh. Um, mm. It's interesting because I feel I will say this. There's a number of ways I think I could respond to this question. I think some of the greatest art that has ever been produced has come in response to really adverse circumstances. Um, I think about I think about the Jewish community during Nazi Germany's time and how people were in the camps and the musicians were composing music while they're in the camp, knowing, I'm sure many of them, that they would die, you know. And those songs are still sung, and they've been passed down, through generation. I think about the blues, in America, jazz music, how a Jewish boy wrote a song called Strange Fruit, and a Black woman called Billie Holiday sung it in a way that it has never been sung and never will be sung again. And just continues that song, and the way that Billie Holiday sung it still continues to impact people to this day. I mean, the Irish folk songs when people were going through the famines, I mean, there's countless examples. I mean, art seems to be one of the ways that that God has encoded within human beings. It's a codex, right? It's in the creative mitochondrial DNA, right? It's in the structure. It seems to be one of the ways that God has imprinted human beings to give us a way to not only celebrate our lives, but then also a way to respond creatively, spiritually to sorrow, to pain, to trauma, and to hurt. So do you have to, I think it's a profoundly impactful ingredient to throw into the mix. There have been great artists who have come about who didn't really suffer. Art, every human being suffers in one capacity or another. But I mean, there certainly is variations in terms of intensity of suffering based on individual lives and also collectively cultures. But I certainly think that pain seems to unleash in artists. It seems to unleash a kind of creative energy that taps into something that is so profoundly rooted in spirit that I'm not sure, do you have the blues without Jim Crow and enslavement? I don't know. Do you have, those songs that came out of the death camps in Nazi Germany without? I don't know. I don't know. And we know how terrible these things are in human history. So I'm not justifying any of that. What I'm saying is there's something that's happening that I don't fully understand. This correlation between pain and suffering and potentially the production of great art. So that's the best way I can answer for it. I don't know if I answered the question, but that's what resonates for me. That's what I'm feeling about that right now,
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate it because I know that many musicians,
Mm-hmm.
when they went through very deep sufferings like
Yeah.
Beethoven and others, they
Yeah.
created their most beautiful, the most phenomenal work.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
I understand that. And something that I wanted to add
Mm-hmm.
is that the Baha'is of Iran have never found the opportunity to
Mm-hmm.
express their suffering and their feeling in an artistic way because of the way that society works right now. And probably when the doors are open, we
Mm-hmm.
should wait and see how people will express themselves and how they have gone through and all of that. What you told me actually brought to mind that question. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Very moving, Masujan. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Friends, Zane, a question? Gary, next time come with Mike. Roya John, can we see your face? Hi, Faye. Welcome. Farida Jun, welcome. Hi, Roya. Hi, lovely to see you. Roya, you have to unmute yourself.
I was just saying, lovely to see you as well.
Love to see Roya June. I was in Hawaii with her. Oh my God. I am second mother for Roya June. Roya, how is your parents?
Hi, Faraday. They're doing okay. They're holding steady. Thank you for asking.
I will pray for them in the Baha'i temple. I was there today. Love you very much. Thank you, Suru Masrur John. Sorry, I came late because I confused Chicago time
It's all
with
good.
Toronto.
No
It's all
problem.
good.
the time.
No
So
problem.
you came when you were supposed to be here. It's all good.
That's right. That's right.
Law Paul Mansur. This is
What's
Gary.
going on, dog? What's
I
up,
had
Gary?
to
How
listen,
you doing, man?
How are you doing, my brother?
I'm chilling, man. It's good to see you, dog.
Good to see you too, man. I was in listening mode because our nucleus is out, but I wasn't gonna miss this. Listen, absolutely support you, brother. Love you, and glad this is going again. Great presentation. I listened to the whole thing. Thank you as always, my brother.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
Gary, you don't leave without saying hi to me.
I said hello, but I was waiting because I know, you know what you always ask me? Gary, please say a prayer. So that's the other thing I was listening to. So I'm here, beloved, and I was saying thank you. I am so glad our Thursdays that we're back on and missed everyone. Love the space. Love you all. Ya Baha'ul Apa.
Take it easy, Gary. Good to see you, brother.
Yes, sir.
All right,
Thank
man.
you, Gary. Thank you so much. You know that from 8:30 on, we will go on saying prayers and we go to the devotional part. Gary, are you going to stay here with us or not? Just say yes.
Yes, I'm going to be here, but I may be in my car, but I've already planned that I'm going to be in a position when you say, Gary, say a prayer, I'll be ready.
Oh, Gary, so give me 2 seconds wherever you want to be because I want to ask you, Gary, can you say a prayer?
I shall.
Okay, perfect. Friends, thank you so much for being here. Loyalty, Abdul Baha says loyalty is the foundation of all human endeavors and religions. That's very, I just saw that when I was away. And thank you for being loyal to these sessions. Thank you for being here with us. Masujan, thank you for accepting to be here, although this was the first night after such a long absence. Thank you. You know we love you, Masud. And Masujan, can you send me your phone number just for 5 minutes? Somebody came from Iran and he's a fantastic artist. I'm wondering if you can discuss that.
Sure.
So Zain, would you like to say the prayer after Gary? No? Okay, that's fine.
Wait, I would love to. I would love to. Yes, please, dear Feroz, please.
Oh, okay. So we're going to say a prayer for Mr. Baga and a friend of the family. We will start our prayers with Gary. Gary, welcome. We love you. Thank you for being here. Go ahead, please, Gary. Gary, you must unmute yourself.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, please.
You're for the prayer?
Yes, please.
Okay, let me get inside of my car. I'm walking through the parking lot right now.
Okay.
I'm going to be in my car in 1 second.
Okay. Do you want somebody else to say a prayer? Don't
Please.
rush it. Okay, I don't
And
want
then
you to
I'll
bother.
after.
Zenjan, Azizam, can you say prayer?
Yes, ma'am, we're ready.
Go ahead.
O divine providence, this assemblage is composed of thy friends who are attracted to thy beauty and are set ablaze by the fire of thy love. Turn these souls into heavenly angels, resuscitate them through the breath of thy Holy Spirit. Grant them eloquent tongues and resolute hearts. Bestow upon them heavenly power and merciful susceptibilities. Cause them to become the promulgators of the oneness of mankind, and the cause of love and concord in the world of humanity, so that the perilous darkness of ignorant prejudice may vanish through the light of the Sun of Truth. This dreary world may become illumined. This material realm may absorb the rays of the world of spirit. These different colors may merge into one color, and the melody of praise may rise to the kingdom of thy sanctity. Verily, thou art the omnipotent and the almighty. Abdul Baha.
Aloha, aloha, aloha. Aloha, aloha, aloha. Aloha, aloha, aloha. Oh God, make me a hollow reed from which the pith of self hath been blown, that I may become a clear channel through which thy love may flow to others. Oh God, make me a hollow reed from which the pith of self hath been blown, that I may become a clear channel through which thy love may flow to others.
Roya John, I want to hear your voice. Chant, please.
Thank you, Royeju.
Okay with Farouz.
Please, I'm very grateful.
Okay. Just a note that my allergies are terrible today. So. Thy name is my healing, oh my God, and remembrance of thee is my remedy. Nearness to thee is my hope, and love for thee is my companion. Thy mercy to me is my healing and my succor in both this world and the world to come. Thou verily art the all-bountiful, the all-knowing, the all-wise. Thou verily art the all-bountiful, the all-knowing, the all-wise.
Will it be too much, Masujan, if I put you on spot and ask you to say a prayer?
Okay, let's see what we got. Let's see. Okay. All right, let's see here. Magnified be thy name, O Lord my God, inasmuch as thou hast inclined my ear to thy voice and called me to thyself, and opened mine eyes to gaze on thy beauty, and illumined my heart with thy knowledge, and sanctified my breast from the doubts of the infidels in thy days. I am the one, O my God, who lay fast asleep on his couch, when lo, the messengers of thy manifold mercies were sent down upon me by thee, and the gentle winds of thy loving kindness blew over me, and roused me up, and caused me to set my face towards the sanctuary of thy knowledge, and to fix mine eyes upon the splendors of the light of thy face. I am but a poor creature, O my Lord. Behold me clinging to the hem of thy riches. I have fled from darkness and from waywardness unto the brightness of the light of thy countenance. Were I unto this thy glory beareth me witness, to render thanksgiving unto thee, to the whole continuance of thy kingdom, and the duration of the heaven of thine omnipotence. I would still have failed to replay thy manifold bestowals. I implore thee, O my Lord, by thy name, the ever-abiding, and by thy name which thou didst ordain to be the most great instrument, binding thee to thy servants, to grant that I may flee for shelter to thy door, and speak forth thy praise. Write down then for me, in every world of thine, that which will enable me to enter beneath thy shadow, and within the borders of thy court. Thou art verily the Almighty, the most bountiful, the most exalted, the ever-forgiving, the most generous. Baha'u'llah.
الله تفتنو الله تفتنو كل شيء في كل شيء من كل شيء إلى كل شيء بنفسه كل شيء الله تفتنو كل شيء في كل شيء من كل شيء إلى كل شيء بنفسه كل شيء. I learned this prayer from Chinese Baha'i in Malaysia. I told them, how you reading that? How you know this Arabic? They said, hands of the cause Dr. Mahaji. He was pioneering in Indonesia. He come all the time to Malaysia and teach to the Baha'i, Chinese, and Indian reading. God is testing for everything, everything tested for everything. Ya Baha'u'llah.
Okay, let's pray. Terangilah hati kami, kurniakanlah kami mata yang melihat dan telinga yang mendengar. Bukalah pintu pengertian sebenar dan biarlah cahaya keimanan bersinar dengan gilang gemilang. Terangilah hati kami, kurniakanlah kami mata yang melihat dan telinga yang mendengar. Bukalah pintu pengertian sebenar dan biarlah cahaya keimanan bersinar dengan gilang gemilang.
Surujan, your microphone is off. Turn on your microphone, Suru.
Thank you, Faridejun. Thank you. Mr. Liuchi, they are from Malaysia and they join us every single Thursday that we have a session. I'm very grateful to both of you. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
We love you. Thank you very much. Friends, how can I say goodbye? I mean, I could invite you all to a Persian dinner right now. I don't know who can make it or not, but I can ask you. Thank you so much. Love you all. See you next Thursday. Masud Jan, قربانت برم عزیزم ممنونم. Thank you so much.
Surujan, I have one question before Masud go. Because Masud name is Masud is for C. I want to know his mother or anybody is for a Persian or not.
No, so back in 2000, I read a book called The Slave Trade by the English scholar Hugh Thomas. And on page 235, he mentions my family name as being derived from an English slave trader. And so I didn't want to have that as my name anymore. So I was born Michael. My last name was Bolds. Bold was the name of the slave trader in England. They put an S on it as what they would do with enslaved people quite often to indicate slave. So Bold S, that's slave of Bold, of Mr. Bold. So I didn't want that as my name anymore. So then I went through it. I bought a book on African names, found Masud, and then Olufani is a Yoruba name from Nigeria, which means of God. Masud means, as I'm sure you already know, lucky or fortunate. So yeah, that's how that came about.
You know, the reason I asked because I live in the Lear National Center, House of Worship, and everybody in my feast is African American, married, and then some people, hi, come here from Africa, the Persian name, the mother Iranian, the father African. They look, or they're very, very, African, look like you, and they're so wonderful. They speak Farsi, so cute, and then all married in here. There's few Baha'i youth married, African American white people for unity, love. I think I'm not America. I'm in Chicago, this area. I feel I'm the pioneering. All different color, nationality, working together in the National Center, Baha'i Temple. Today I went to Baha'i Temple, group of the people, girl. I said, are you Chinese? They said, no, we are from Mongolia. We are Baha'i. We came here to see the Baha'i Temple. It's some kind of oh my God, it's so beautiful. I hope Roya, Gary, and all of you, everybody move near the temple. You feel you are in the paradise. I am in the train. I get up, people unhappy, sad. I show them Baha'i temple. I said, do you want to go to paradise? Everybody look at me. I said, this is Baha'i temple. This is the paradise. You're welcome. And everybody start talking in the train. Oh, I've been to Baha'i temple. Many of them said, oh, I never been to Baha'i temple. The best fireside. And most of the train, the drivers are African American, woman or man. I give them Baha'i temple. Not they know me for a few years. And the horn, Baha'i temple, Baha'i temple, Baha'i temple. And
You,
this is
Faride
my life
Jun.
and my happiness. Just I want to tell you this good news.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Love you. I wanted to welcome Jane as well. Jane didn't get a chance to say hi. Love you, love you, love you. I still don't know who Zoom user is, but we love you too. Giti Jun, thank you for being here. And all of you, thank you. Amanda, thank you, thank you. See you next week. Masud John, send me your phone number, please.
Will do.
Aziza.
Masood,
Yes.
Masood, my email is up there. I'd like to contact you about something you just shared too. That's my
Okay.
email right there. And there's something I want to speak to you about.
Okay, cool. That sounds good, bro. I'll make sure when I send Farouz my phone number, she'll send my information to you. Is that all right,
Okay,
Farouz? Okay. Cool.
Anything
All right.
for Masud and Gary. Anything.
Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you.
Sounds
All right,
good.
be well. Be well,
Take care.
beloved.
Bye.
Bye.
Allah Allah.
Zain, I love you. Zain, I'm glad you came back. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good night, everyone. Love you all. Thank you. Aloha, pa Azizam. Good night.
Aloha,
Bye, bye, bye,
Aloha,
bye, bye. Aloha,
Aloha,
pa.
Hello.
Aloha, pa.
Wonderful presentation. Well,
Juliet, thank you. Mr. Liu,
Thank you.
thank
thank you. Thank you.
Aloha.
You see-
Aloha, pa. Thank you.
Farouk, you I'm gonna want a copy of this tape, right?
Love you, love you. Take
Okay.
care. Giti ju Khodafis. Good night. Bye.
Allah.
Aloha.